Today I'm going to be following a Trail Tacoma article to clean my engine bay. It was written by Conrad, who basically runs Trail Tacoma. And if you don't know what Trail Tacoma is, it's essentially a website where Tacoma owners like myself go and write reviews, how-tos, installs, the whole nine. And it's honestly the best way to get information about your Tacoma and, installing aftermarket parts and whatnot. So go check out Trail Tacoma. Again, link in the description. I'm going to be following one of those articles today for cleaning up my engine bay. So like I said, the engine bay is completely filthy. I don't know if you can kind of see, the lighting's a little bad, but yeah, just mud splattered everywhere. So my first step here is going to be using the pressure washer, which is over there in the bright sun. I'm going to be using the pressure washer lightly to kind of just get off the top layer of water and whatnot. So there's kind of two ways you can go about this. You can either unplug all of the electronics and make sure the truck is completely off altogether, unplug the battery terminals. The truck's basically dead in a sense. That's a good way to do it if you're worried about your electronics getting wet and something shorting out. Otherwise, if you trust in Toyota's engineering and maybe yourself if you have aftermarket mods, you can actually just kind of run the engine and spray it off doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and do it the second way, where I just keep the truck running, give it a rinse, and hopefully it'll be okay. Honestly, I think with the amount of mud and water that's gotten into my engine bay, I don't think a pressure washer would be the thing that kills the engine, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to be careful about not getting too close, and honestly just not getting too much volume of water onto the engine to where it's flooding anything out. Alright, so I moved the truck to a better spot, kind of in the garage, kind of not. I want to be in the shade. It's way too hot out in Florida, even still. So I'm going to be in the shade, kind of spraying out of the garage into the hood of the truck. And for that, I'm going to be using my Sunjoe pressure washer. Coincidentally enough, I have the exact same pressure washer as Conrad, so you'll see that in the article if you want to go check it out. And I think there's actually a separate Trail Tacoma article on this pressure washer, so go check that out too if you're interested. Pretty solid pressure washer. I've had it for like 2 years now, and as you can kind of tell, super dirty. I beat it, I don't clean it, I don't maintain it, and it works flawlessly. Alright, so now I'm gonna go ahead and hook that up, get the water running, and give the hood a rinse. But like I said before, I'm gonna start the truck up and have that running at its running temperature when I spray the inside. So that'll help keep the water out of the spots that we don't want it, and the engine will kind of evaporate it off a little bit, so we won't have to worry about it getting into our electronics and soaking in there. Alright, so as you can see, the rinse alone didn't do a whole lot to get the dirt off, but it kind of got the top layer off. As you can see, some areas there's still quite a bit. I didn't want to really blast this area because that's where the majority of the electronics are. So that's a pretty good starting point. Now the next step is going to be to spray some degreaser on the majority of the parts here, and then let it soak in a little bit, and then we're going to rinse it again. Alright, so I picked up some of this super clean degreaser from Lowe's, and essentially what I'm going to do is just spray coat the whole engine bay and then let it soak for a few minutes, and then I'll agitate it with a brush to kind of loosen up all the dirt that's still stuck on, and then we're going to go ahead and rinse it all off and see how that is. Might need to do that a couple times because of how dirty my engine bay is, but I'm only going to use this degreaser once. And then if I still need to use some more, I'll actually just use a simple green to be a little bit less harsh on the components, but still be able to clean it a bit. Alright, so I have the degreaser on there working its magic. I'm gonna let that sit for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll start going in with the brush and agitating all the dirt. And what that's gonna do is release it from the surface that it's on and kind of let it float above the surface a little bit, and then we'll go back and hit it again with the pressure washer, which will kind of sweep it all off and hopefully leave us with a clean surface. Like I said, I might have to do this a couple of times. This is the only time I'm going to use the degreaser. Afterwards, I'm just going to go back with some simple green, a little bit milder of a chemical, and wash it again. Alright, so as you can see, I went through and agitated all the mud and dirt, and it's starting to dry up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is turn the truck back on and give it another rinse, and hopefully that gets a lot of it off, but I have a feeling that I'm going to have to do this 2 or 3 times until I get all the mud off. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a rinse and see what it looks like after. Alright, the truck's running, so hopefully you can hear me okay, but the degreaser seemed to have gotten a bunch off once I hit it with the pressure washer again. It looks pretty clean already, but I think I'm just going to need to go back and do a little touch-up work in some areas that I missed with the brush. But I'm going to let this dry off just a little bit and then come back and hit it again. Alright, so with the truck still running, the engine bay is pretty wet, so I'm going to let the truck run for another 15-20 minutes until it starts to evaporate off. But in the meantime, I'm going to use one of these big old mammoth rags to dry it off as best as I can. When you're doing this, just make sure to keep your hands away from any moving parts, namely the big fan in the front. Don't let the towel or your hand get caught in there because it's not going to be a good time. But once I get this dried off, I'm going to let the truck run another 10-15 minutes to evaporate any water that's left over. And once I turn the truck off, I'll wait another 20-30 minutes for it to sit and let any remaining water evaporate before I go ahead and touch it up and get it looking nice and shiny. Alright, so like I said, I let that run for about 10-15 minutes to dry it out. As you can see, the engine bay itself is still very dirty. So what I'm going to do is go through with a microfiber and some detailing spray, and I'll kind of clean it up, make it look a little shiny, and get the rest of the dirt off. But overall, using that degreaser with the power washer got 90% of the dirt off, so pretty satisfied with that. So I'm going to let this sit here for about 20-30 minutes, let it dry up more, evaporate in the sun, make sure all the water's out of the electronic parts and whatnot, and then I'll come back and hit it with the detail spray, and hopefully that should be good. Alright, so it's been about a half hour. I'm back in the garage. I pulled the truck in so that, I have my light and I'm not out in the hot sun and in the wind and whatnot. But yeah, so it turned out pretty decent. There's still quite a few dirty areas, especially in here where I didn't want to kind of blast it because that's where most of the electronics are. But right now I'm going to go back through with some detailing spray and a microfiber cloth and go ahead and wipe everything down. That'll kind of shine it up a little bit, and that'll also let me pick up some of the dirt areas that I missed with the spray and the pressure washer. So final step, really just wipe it down, shine it up, make it look good. But I'm really happy with how it turned out so far. The degreaser worked perfectly. It got the majority of the stuff off, so I'm really happy about that. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's my mostly clean but still kind of dirty engine bay. Obviously a huge improvement over where it started at. There's still some spots, especially in the back, that I didn't get to, can't really reach, but not too worried about. Main stuff was just, obviously the plastic cover to make it look nice, and then some of the electronics bits, just getting the dirt away from them so they're not getting corroded and whatnot. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. The degreaser worked like magic, so shout out to Conrad for suggesting that in his article. Like I said, that's going to be linked below, so go check that out. He has a better description of how to do it than I just showed you, so it'd be a good idea to go check that out if you're seriously interested in cleaning your engine bay, and maybe you'll put a little bit more effort in than I did and make your engine bay look a little bit better. But like I said, couple weeks from now, probably next weekend even, I'll be off-road again, and I live in Florida. It rains all the time, it's muddy all the time, so that's why my engine bay looked like that in the first place. But I'm excited to have something kind of clean, so next time I work on it, which is going to be very soon, I won't have to deal with dirt and mud everywhere getting on me, and I can just focus on the install. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below as always, and I'll get back to you. Please drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you're notified when future videos come out. And thanks again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.